awesome.
Can you explain that interesting story about sea lampreys?
I can give it a shot. So, the interesting story about sea lampreys, they are a very unusual fish. They're a jawless fish. There's two divisions in the fish family tree. One is fishes with jaws, which, by the way, you and I are from a biological standpoint, and the other is fishes without jaws. So sea lampreys don't have true jaws, but what they do have is an oral sucker for a mouth, and they use this oral sucking disc that's filled with teeth to attach themselves to a host or prey fish. And after they attach to the prey fish, they use their rasping tongue to actually burrow into the side of the fish to drill a little hole, and they'll drink the fluids of the fish as their food source. And there are native lampreys. Sea lampreys were non-native to the Great Lakes, or at least to Lake Erie and above. They may have been native to Lake Ontario, but they're not native to the upper Great Lakes. And unlike our native lampreys, the sea lamprey tends to kill the host fish. They tend to keep feeding until the host fish dies. So what happened was, through the creation of man-made canals, like for example the Welland Canal that bypasses Niagara Falls, that canal, it began construction in the 1800s. It was enlarged a few times. By the early 1900s, that canal was large enough to allow the sea lamprey to swim through it and enter Lake Erie and then the upper Great Lakes. Once the sea lamprey was able to invade the upper Great Lakes, it decimated the native fish populations. These were fishes that were important to commercial fishermen, species like whitefish and cisco. Some native fishes that were important from an ecological standpoint, like lake trout. The impact of the sea lamprey feeding behavior, along with fishing pressure, overfishing by fishermen during the 1940s, led to a complete collapse of the Lake Erie commercial fisheries by about 1950. In fact, sea lampreys are largely responsible for the elimination or extirpation of the lake trout, our native cold water salmonid in the Great Lakes, from Lake Erie and most of the other Great Lakes. The United States and Canadian government joined together to fight the sea lamprey by creating what was called the Great Lakes Fishery Commission. And there's a very expensive, in fact it's a $20 million annual program designed to try to kill the immature spawning sea lamprey that run up to the tributary streams that enter the Great Lakes, is where the sea lamprey spawn. And then the immatures that look like worms, like eyeless kind of fishy worms, they live in the sediment and they don't feed on any other fish. They just filter organic material out of the water column, much like zebra mussels do. But they're vulnerable in this immature larval state for a period of between 3 and 5 years, and that allows an opportunity to use a very specific chemical treatment to kill the immature lampreys. Very expensive. It's an ongoing process. They'll never be eliminated from the Great Lakes, but in the absence of this very expensive chemical treatment program, they would be likely to overtake and decimate fish populations once again.